rebounds. He played 40 of the 48 possible minutes. That dude's a warrior. Bell's palsy, dealing with that throughout the series. Bad knee. This was about as bonkers as you're going to get. Tom Thibodeau, he was like, I'm not going to my bench. He got 5 points from his bench. They were huge. Miles McBride made a huge late three. Mitchell Robinson made a huge bucket. Those were his only 2 points of the game. Buddy Hield gave you 20. Nicholas Batum goes the dynamite, gave you 16. Cameron Payne gave you 6 off the bench for the 76ers as they went for 42 off the bench. I mean, it was insane. And for more, welcoming 2 members of Beyond the Arc podcast, CBS Sports NBA insider Bill Ryder and CBS Sports HQ NBA analyst John Gonzalez. Men, what we just watched was absolutely wild. Bill, your reaction is what to how that game went down?
What an amazing series. How lucky for us NBA fans. I feel awful for the Sixers and for John because both those teams deserve to advance. Special shout out to Mr. Maxey. I think it was 12 fourth quarter points, him versus Brunson. You know how great Embiid was, including that fourth quarter. These are 2 great teams, guys, and obviously only one could advance. That's one of the most thrilling series I can remember. First round, second round, finals, whatever, conference finals. It's a bummer somebody had to go home, and congrats to the Knicks. That is a hard-fought series and a hell of a basketball series.
John, you and I talked at halftime, and the Knicks had built a 22 first quarter lead. And it was a 3-point lead at halftime. And we sat here and we said, we're not going to be surprised however this game ends. It was an absolute thriller to the final whistle.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, this whole series, as Bill said, was so close, so hard fought. These 2 teams are so evenly matched. Bill, thank you for the condolences, but don't feel bad for me and for Philadelphia. You were right to say you feel bad about this whole scenario for basketball fans because I thought we were headed for, I was hoping that we were headed for the first Game 7 in Madison Square Garden since 1995. Unfortunately, we don't get it. But this series absolutely lived up to the hype. Guys, over the course of 6 games, the Knicks outscored the Sixers by a grand total of 1 point. That's how good the series was. It was unbelievable. Credit to the Knicks. They're moving on.
Bill, when you take a look at what went down in this game, with the Knicks being up by 22 in the first quarter, and then letting it slip away in the first half. And then considering what happened in Game 5 when they were up 6 with 28 seconds to play and lost that game, and then having a 22-point lead in this game, there's no way that you can lose this game being up by 22, but they almost did. This was a perfect example of survive and advance. How did they get it done?
Yeah, by the way, let me do a call back to the podcast and something you said as well, Hakeem. Ball don't lie. I mean, this was not a series. This was not a game or a series that was supposed to end on some 20-point blowout. So in some ways, the basketball gods got the scales right because as John just said, this is literally as close a series as you can hope for. And the answer to the question is some mental fortitude and some toughness. There are lesser teams. There are excellent teams that having given up that lead on the road with the pressure and the weight of the history or lack of history for this Knicks team for a generation would have lost this game. Jalen Brunson was awesome. Obviously, Josh Hart had that huge shot at the end. Hartenstein was great. But the answer is they didn't blink. Both these teams were good enough. Both these teams are outstanding. I thought Brunson in particular, not just his really impressive game in his great fourth quarter, he was so calm, handled the basketball. They doubled him, the Sixers, so effectively through stretches of that fourth quarter. He was able to work his way through that, sometimes to get off his own shot, sometimes to find some of his guys, including Hart. This is just a really good, mentally tough Knicks team that took a battering and given up that lead. And the reason they won, the reason they held on, is they are a legit contender. They played a team that I think would have been a legit contender. And whatever they were in the regular season, whatever excellence they put together, whatever remarkable culture that Tibbs has created, it's real and it's lasting, and it didn't buck under the weight of what could have been a historic level of a collapse.
Jalen Brunson pumps in 41 points in 44 minutes. 41 points in 44 minutes. And, John, we talked about that late turnover in overtime of Game 5. And he looked at his teammates, that's my bad. Bad pass, you know, in a huge critical situation. What does it say about Jalen Brunson and the Knicks to step up when the 76ers pushed them to the brink here, trying to force a Game 7? What's it say about the Knicks to get this done?
I mean, he's unflappable. They're unflappable. They've They've closed games all season long. They did it in the end of the regular season against the Bulls. They did it several times in this series. When you're talking about, the mistake that he made and then he bounces back, he didn't shoot well in the first 2 games of the series and bounced back. And then Josh Hart, you look at him, he missed 2 big free throws in game 5 that could have closed out the series then. And instead tonight, pass it to him wide open, cans a 3-ball. I mean, they just decide the moment's never too big for them. It doesn't matter what happened previously. If they made a mistake, so be it. They're going to get the next one. And it's been like that for them all season long, right? I mean, they lost Julius Randle and OG Anunoby for several long stretches of the season, and Josh Hart steps up, has an excellent year, but probably his best year as a pro. Dante DiVincenzo goes from a 6-man extraordinaire into the starting lineup. He's been excellent for them. The Nova Knicks just find a way to win, and Jalen Brunson is at the forefront for them. He is an MVP candidate this season for a reason. First-time All-Star for a reason. Good for them. They're moving on. And as Bill said, they're dangerous. They could really contend in the Eastern Conference now.
John, I want to go right back to you, and I want to be on the record here right now and be very clear here what I'm about to say. I am not pinning this on Tyrese Maxey. He goes for 46 in Game 5. He goes for 17 here, 6 of 18, including 1 of 6. Okay? I am not pinning this on Tyrese Maxey because he's now in line for a max contract in the offseason. When you look at what's next for this 76ers squad, and maybe you think maybe if Maxey makes a couple more buckets and he had a great fourth quarter, maybe this is a different game. That's what fans will think about. They go, well, Maxey won Game 5. He could have helped us win Game 6. We didn't, yada, yada, yada. You know how it goes. It's woulda, coulda, shoulda. But what's next for Maxey? What's next for Embiid as they head into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't ideal, this game, for Tyrese Maxey. He was basically a no-show for the first 3 quarters. But as Bill mentioned, he got it going in the fourth quarter. He ended up with 12 points. But he's had an unbelievable year. It really was a massive step up, level up for this kid. And what's going to happen, what's next for this team is that Joel Embiid will obviously be back. They're going to end up giving Maxey the max contract. The reason why they haven't extended him yet, though, is because they're projected to have about $60 million, give or take, in cap space during the offseason. They want to see who they can fold into it. This thing was always set up, win or lose this series, no matter how far they would have gone this postseason. This thing was always set up by Daryl Morey for the offseason to be a rebuild around those 2 guys. They're the only 2 guys who are guaranteed to come back, along with Ricky Council, who you may or may not have heard of. And that's basically it. Everybody else is on the chopping block, could potentially be replaced. And there's going to be a lot of moving parts in the offseason. But what they do know is that their top 2 guys are as good as anybody's top 2 guys in the NBA. And then you see where you go from there.
John, when you look at what Joel Embiid did in this series, because he deserves the flowers, as the kids would say. I mean, this guy, this was a definition of a warrior in NBA playoffs. When you talk about what he dealt with, Bell's palsy, went for 50 in that game. Then he's dealing with the bad knee as well. I mean, he gave you everything and more in this series. What did you learn? What did you see from Embiid in 6 games here?
I think there were a lot of detractors for Joel Embiid in important games, in series where you want him to carry the team. I thought he was excellent. I mean, as you mentioned, he's coming off a knee injury. He's obviously hobbled. He wasn't completely healthy. Now, all of a sudden, he's playing not just with one knee, but half a face because of the Bell's palsy thing. Tonight, 39 and 12. Yes, he fouled out, but that's a career high for him in an elimination game. He has the second most 30-point playoff games in franchise history. Only Allen Iverson has had more. I don't know what else you could ask from this guy. I thought he was really good tonight, especially on a night when the rest of the starters really weren't good. We mentioned Tyrese Maxey. Tobias Harris took 2 shots, didn't make any of them. Kyle Lowry was a no-show. Oubre was okay, but mostly it was just Joel Embiid all night long. So he's a monster. He was great all season until he got hurt. He was great after he came back. I thought he was fantastic, and now we'll see if he can get healthy. I'd like to recommend that maybe he takes off from the Olympics and rests up, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. Take some time off, rest up. He proved the doubters that said he was not be able to deliver. And I get it. They did not win the NBA title, and sometimes we get emotional in the moment and we go, okay, he had a great – at the end of the day, they didn't get a ring. And so that's what's important here in these playoffs. But you got to give respect when it's due to Joel Embiid, what he did throughout this series. All right, so the Knicks move on here, Bill, to face the Indiana Pacers. And when you look at these 2 teams, how are you evaluating this matchup in the second round?
Well, the Pacers are a dangerous team, and look, they can win that series. They're going to have to shoot the lights out. They're a high-powered offensive team. They've been better defensively toward the end of the year. But the Knicks are the favorite, and we just talked about this. Let's just say it again. The winner of the series that just ended, so it's the Knicks, it could have been the Sixers, are clearly good enough and will be and are the favorites in New York to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You got to go through the Pacers. They're a dangerous team. You'd like to see Tyrese Halliburton shoot consistently and excellently like he did at the start of the season when they made that run to the final of the in-season tournament that nobody remembers or talks about. Obviously, they brought in Pascal Siakam. Since then, the Pacers are tough. They're going to be a tough out. And I don't want to take anything away from that team, but they're not as good or as dangerous as this Sixers team the Knicks just went through. Doesn't mean the series is over. Doesn't mean the Knicks are going to coast, but the Knicks are clearly the favorites, and they should win and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Bill Ryder and John Gonzalez here at CBS Sports HQ, wrapping up an incredible series between the Knicks and 76ers. What a series that was as the Knicks survive and advance to play the Pacers in the Eastern Conference semifinals. I mean, this is going to be fun to watch. You got the Pacers who run up and down the floor. You got a Knicks team that they're going to try to stay right with them. And this series is going to be maybe not just as dramatic. We'll see.